As the fintech industry in Nigeria resets to deepen financial inclusion and support the economy's growth, the newly inaugurated executive team, led by the president, Dr. Stanley Jacobs, hosted the second edition of the annual President's Dinner in Lagos. It brought together industry pioneers, federal cabinet members, regulators, financial services industry leaders, fintech industry leaders, and other industry experts. Given the welcome remarks, the president of the African Fintech Network, Dr. Segun Aino, described the evolution of the Fintech Association of Nigeria as remarkable, given the spread across Africa.
The Great Fintech Association of Nigeria has come a long way since its conception in April 2017, and of course, its launch in June 2017 as the first national fintech association in Africa. And through the efforts of the Fintech Association of Nigeria, the Africa Fintech Network now has 40 national fintech associations in 40 countries in Africa and still growing. So you can see the role that the association is playing in Africa, leading to the launch of the Fintech Net Africa in December 2018 in Lagos and in Marrakesh, Morocco in March 2019. In the space of 7 years that the association has existed, it has positively impacted the economy, creating jobs, growing the number of fintech players that we have in the economy, leading during this period, we have had 4 fintech unicorns out of the 8 unicorns that we have in Africa. So Nigeria alone has 4 of those unicorns, and more are still on the way.
Some industry leaders and regulators gave insights into the fintech ecosystem and the opportunities to scale, empower businesses, and create more jobs.
Fintechs are fostering a culture of innovation, inspiring new business models, and startups that addresses national challenges. In addition, fintech have created employment opportunities for a highly skilled, tech-savvy workforce. At Pampe, we have employed over 2,000 Nigerians and are still employing more.
Deep and long-lasting engagement with the financial sector in Nigeria, including a range of fintech players. The city in London and financial services sector in Lagos are deeply connected. Earlier this year, the UK and Nigeria signed an enhanced trade and investment partnership. This involved both parties committing to strengthening bilateral trade and investment, particularly in financial services, by addressing non-tariff barriers.
We operate open door policy so that you people can be able to come in and advise and then see how we can support you. And that is very exemplified in the previous activities we have done. Just last week, we convened Development Partners Roundtable. Everybody knows that the objective was to bring all the development partners, FCDO, and also their allies, DIA, World Bank, and everybody was there. Let us align our strategy in order to ensure that what they are working on is actually working towards, achieving the objective of this renewed agenda, and of course, ultimately achieving the $1 trillion economy.
As an industry, it's important that we're engaging on the things that will help to further enable the industry, driving digital infrastructure, driving smartphone penetration, driving financial literacy. So in driving all these areas, I think the importance of alliances, is key. And I would be expecting that the Fintech Association is in alliance with various other bodies that are driving the things that enable the industry.
Must we fight the regulator? It's supposed to be a cooperation between the regulator and the players. And for fintech to fulfill its promise, we need you to work with us. We need you to defend us when those moments do come. When we shout, when we take those newspaper adverts, we need you to read our letters, to respond, support us. We do not need to go and register in Delaware. And that is what you are making us to go and do.
People have been talking of disruption, but it's true that there's disruption.
There is no way you can have a breakthrough unless you hit something. And before you can hit something, you must be expecting something. And what has happened is a revolution within the ecosystem, not only in Nigeria and across the globe. And we should not see the disruption as something that is going to be detrimental all along. Rather, we should put our thinking cap together and see how we can put ourselves in a vantage position. And I'm glad today that FintechNGR has been able to demonstrate that.
In his address, the president of the Fintech Association of Nigeria, Dr. Stanley Jacobs, highlighted how the three-point agenda of participation, innovation, and expansion will reposition the industry.
A lot is happening. How do we achieve national coverage, global access to Nigerians, regardless of where they live and work? So what we are trying to see here is, once you are a Nigerian, how do we ensure that whether you are in the West, in Southeast Asia, any part of Africa, you want to play a role with FintechNGR, you want to play a role in the African FinTech network. This is the positioning we want to achieve. Volunteering, more hands to support expansion, extend interaction to governments, a lot of conversations around happening with ITF and Super, training as artisans, the marketplace for artisans. These are things that will happen at national and subnational level of policy implementation. Of course, investment. We want to be at the center of investment. In the next few days, we will be unveiling these communities of practice and inaugurating their leadership. We think these areas are very important to supporting economic growth and economic inclusiveness, or inclusive finance, as we may choose to call it. Innovation and technology, cybersecurity and risk management, economic inclusion, regulatory and policy, new industry advocacy. These are all going to be bodies inside FintechNGR that will lead various member-led initiatives and regulatory engagements.
In her remarks, the Minister of Industries, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, assured the fintech industry of an enabling policy environment for its growth.
We're here still to champion for you. That is my core, that is who I am. To make sure that we simplify your regulatory, your bureaucratic processes, we make things more transparent and efficient for you. We remove hurdles for you so that you can promote innovation and fly. We're confident that together, working with this ecosystem, we can build a future in which fintech serves as a cornerstone of a prosperous, inclusive, and globally competitive Nigeria. Thank you for your attention.
Dignitaries and industry leaders discussed the event and the way forward for a resilient, innovative, and dynamic Nigerian fintech ecosystem.
So my word to the fintech leadership is really that collaboration works. Speak to us. Your regulators are here. Your policymakers are here. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President have been committed to this agenda. Let's just continue to work together. We've passed the hump of the worst of the reforms and the best is yet to come.
I'm very proud to be associated with the FintechNGR, and I believe that all of the things and the plans that they have put together, a lot of people will be able to support it. I'm proudly Nigeria, and I like what FintechNGR is doing.
FintechNGR is coming of age. I'm very pleased with the progress, be it in terms of first impact. Now we have a platform well established with right governance, both at the Board of Trustees, at the GovCo level, and at the membership level. We've been able to straddle various subsectors of the industry. And very recently, even this evening, we were discussing handshake with the insurance industry. So the banking industry, the finance industry, all industries that require to use tech, you need the fin. You need the finance to get the tech to work. And that is why fintech is very key.
We've seen bumper improvement year in, year out, using technology to solve peculiar challenges in the society, particularly in the area of payment, which has boosted financial inclusion. Compared to 2017 to today, we've now seen a lot more people having getting financial services through the use of digital. We have seen the contribution of the ICT sector increasing substantially from what we had 7 years ago.
Fintech certainly helps EdTech. So for payments, like for instance, EdTech is now looking at how do we reach every child. So that's one of the things. So it's almost like I call it education inclusion. So like financial inclusion, so which fintech is driving. So either you're on an education platform, the payments, the ability to pay in small bits for each lesson and so on will be driven by fintech. Funding those fees, applying for loans and so on would also be driven by fintech. So it's very relevant to ensure that we have education access, because education to me is what improves human quality and makes it human capital. So that capital is what we need to drive industry. People who have access to education are better able to drive economic growth that we are trying to achieve.
The reason that CC Hub worked so well was because there was Unilag at one end and there was Yabatech at the other end. Being able to put this fiber, whether it's Starlink, whether it's, in other words, fast access, and giving young people access to these things, they're the ones that have the new ideas. But what they don't have is money. What they do have is time. And being able to utilize that is how we're going to be able to move forward. You might notice that everybody here in this meeting today was over 40. The median age in Nigeria is 18. If you double the median age, that's 36. I don't think there were any 36-year-olds here today. But where they are our future. So moving them forward is what we've got to figure out how to do.
Fintech industry in Nigeria, of course, they have been doing very well. We know that even based on the reports we're receiving from like World Bank report and all that, we know that Africa is topping the list in terms of leveraging technology to advance financial inclusion. So this administration, when we came on board, we know as part of the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, leveraging technology, innovative solutions actually, because when the administration came on board, they signed an ASWA Accord on economic and financial inclusion. One of the key issues we want to do is to bring out innovative solutions, to leverage technology and deliver financial services. That it's actually because of the action or the support of fintech. That is why last mile now in the village, wherever he is in Meduguri, in Katsina, and wherever he can transact, right? But there are so many places, if you look at the geospatial mapping that was done, I think 239 local government, they don't have any financial service provider within. So if not for the use of technology, how can you be able to reach that last mile? So I think that one is no longer a news in terms of their performance, in terms of their ability to do the unthinkable, right? So I think that's actually the angle that we are. So for us as policymakers, we're always available to partner with them to see how we can provide an enabling environment for this to happen. And of course, we know as one of the key objectives we also want to achieve in the ASWA Accord is about collaboration, commitment, and partnership.
Like I was trying to say, interesting times in Nigeria today where we need everybody, all hands on deck. You heard the technical advisor to the president speaking when he was talking about the need for economic inclusion before we talk about financial inclusion, so that people can have as much to even take to the bank or bring into the financial space. But beyond that, fintechs and banks that are already evolving into technology companies, we have done well in terms of trying to bring people, the underbanked and the unbanked, into the financial space. But I still think that there's more to be done. We need to build infrastructure. I'm not talking about the current players as well alone. I'm talking about Nigeria in general, with the help of government and other private institutions. We need to build the infrastructure and build the kind of products that will go down. Because at times, I tend to think that we build products for ourselves and not for the end user or the last mile. And we have to also think about people in the grassroots. This is that time that nobody is exempted from this. Everybody, all the players need to come together and ensure that we increase the financial inclusion rate in Nigeria today, which is about 64%, to a world average of 75%. We're not doing badly, but if Kenya and South Africa can achieve it, I think it's something we can achieve as well.
The opportunity to unpack our strategic priorities as an association was a great moment for me. That is the PI agenda, which speaks to participation, innovation, and expansion. Participation because we want to drive more of inclusion and we want to deliver more value to the ecosystem. In innovation because we need to do quite a lot around talent development, around test and learn opportunities, having an industry sandbox, and the rest of it. Carefully curated program for that the governing council is going to pursue at least for the next 2 years. Also for expansion, which speaks to ensuring that every Nigerian, regardless of where they work and live, have a very strong role to play and they participate in the affairs of Fintech Nigeria.
Through its advocacy, the Fintech Association of Nigeria has played a critical role in accelerating the industry's growth. This has been instrumental in financial inclusion, improving investments in the country, and generating employment opportunities. As the new leadership sets out with the PIE agenda, this is expected to translate to a national spread, supported by enabling regulations to lift millions out of poverty and support Nigeria's aspirations to attain over $1 trillion economy.